Welcome back to another HU Flow video. As always, I'm your host, Steven. Right next to me is my lovely co-host, Marilyn. And today we're back with another guest, and her name is Lindsay. Lindsay, welcome to HU Flow.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming on. So, Lindsay, as always here at HU Flow, we start off by asking the simple questions. What year are you currently in, and what do you major in?
So I am currently a second year student, technically a sophomore, and I am studying esports management and production.
Okay, so for someone at home, what exactly is your major all about? You know?
Yeah, so esports management, and production, it's mostly primarily kind of the back end of esports. Like when you think of esports competitive gaming, you think of professional players and all the stuff you see on screens, but there's a lot of people behind that where there's team managers kind of focusing on the day-to-day of players as well as production crews that are able to put together what you see. So we primarily focus on that and learning the background of esports management and then being able to go into that after we graduate.
What made you want to do this type of major? Was this something that you like, you wanted to go to college to do that you figured out then? Or is like before college, this was already the idea in mind?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do before I started college. I actually took a year and a half off after high school because I had originally been studying architectural drafting and thought about going to school for architecture or interior design. That was not for me. I found out my senior year and then I didn't really know what to do. So during that time off, I discovered esports. And after going to the Overwatch League Grand Finals in 2018, I was like, man, I really want to get into this. Like, this is something I really want to do. Um, and so I spent like the next year, half of a year, kind of figuring out how to do that because I knew I didn't have the skill to be a professional player. Um, but I knew I wanted to get involved somehow. So I kind of talked with some of my friends who were involved, kind of started going around to other events. There's an event in Philadelphia called Too Many Games. Um, they normally hold it, I think, early summer. And there was an Overwatch event there. I had a friend competing in, so my dad and I went, and it was really neat. Um, and from there, it kind of was just like, all right, there's these local things happening. What else is going on? And then that's when we kind of found HU. And before I started at HU, I was actually kind of contacting the social media manager, the previous social media manager. And I was like, hey, like I've started doing graphic design. I'm really interested in your program. Like, how can I get involved? And a couple of the stuff I created, they had put up. And we kind of started this dialogue of, oh, like we could get you involved in this. Let's see where this goes. And from there it kind of turned into what it is now, which is the internship and then also myself as a student at HU.
I want to take it back a little bit. You said you took a year and a half off after high school. So architecture design, man. I mean, I like drawing buildings too, but I don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
Um, so where are you from, and what does the esports world look like where you're from?
I am from a little town in southern Pennsylvania called Denver. Often gets confused with Denver, Colorado. It's Denver, Pennsylvania in Lancaster County. It's about an hour or so from the school. Esports is not something I had ever heard of in this town. Like I said, I had to kind of go out and beyond to hear about it and online. I have an older brother, and we've been gaming our whole lives. I have a baby picture of me holding an N64 controller. Um, and he's kind of the reason and the person behind my passion in gaming, along with my dad. And without them, I wouldn't have had any exposure to it really. So through them, I kind of learned more about gaming as it went along. And then just through the internet, I stumbled upon esports. And it's kind of from there, it was more of a, this is an actual industry, a career. Let's see what we can do.
I forget, did you mention already how you came to HU for that conclusion? And if not, were there any other contenders, any other colleges you were looking at? Or possibly not even college at all? What were your paths?
So for me, I had always wanted to go to college. I always knew that that was a goal of mine to go to 4-year college, graduate, get a degree. But as I said before, after kind of stumbling through in architecture and interior design, I didn't really know what to do. Um, so with esports, I realized, all right, this is something I'm going to do. Let's see if there are like higher education programs that are offering esports focus. And I think in 2018, there were not a lot of esports management programs. I started out at HU as an interactive media major, but before I kind of realized that HU was the best place to go, I had been looking at other schools. I had originally gone to Harrisburg Area Community College for a semester. I had toured Temple University. I had thought that that's where I wanted to go because I had friends that went there. It was in Philly, and Philly's kind of this growing esports scene. But after touring it and seeing how big it was and how little interest they had in esports as a university, to me, it wasn't a good fit. I felt more like a number than a student there. Whereas after being at HU, I felt more like a student and I could be somebody and be myself there and recognized as that.
Yeah, for sure. For those watching, Harrisburg University has kind of made their name in esports. So we attract a lot of prospective students like Lindsay that are looking either to play esports or to do something like esports management. So if you're interested in esports, but maybe don't want to be a professional player, that's definitely a degree to look into. So Lindsay, my question for you is, what is your favorite game that like you've ever played?
Oh, okay. So I'll be honest, I have not played a lot of games. I am very much so somebody who is a watcher. Definitely more of a viewer than I am a player. But I grew up playing Halo Reach. I played that on the Xbox 360. And I've been playing it on my PC lately. It's one of my favorite games. It just brings back a lot of nostalgia. And for me it's a comfort game just because I've played it so much. And then the second one I'd have to choose is Overwatch. I played that on PlayStation for a while, and then I made the switch to PC. But my brother introduced me to it, so that kind of has a special place in my heart. And then that's also the game that really interested me in esports and kind of shot me to where I am today.
I love that. It's adorable. Oh my goodness. Um, so taking it over to Steven.
Thank you, Marilyn. So, Halo Reach is one of my favorite games of all time. Halo series is awesome. Just so you know, anyone wants to fight me with that, you can. Please let me. But I kind of had to go back into the conversation. So, for a lot of our viewers, they're very young. A lot of them specifically in high school. So, take us into your life at high school. You know, because you're like you said, you're from Denver, PA, confused with Denver, Colorado a lot. How was your high school life?
Yeah, so for me, I was a band geek. I was involved in pretty much any band I could be in my school, symphonic band, wind ensemble, jazz band. I played tenor saxophone, I think for 8 years, maybe longer. So in high school, gaming was just kind of something I did for fun on the side to kind of blow off steam from school. Um, and classes for me were pretty easy. I did pretty well in high school. I never felt like I had to do too much work in it. There were of course projects where I would wait last minute, and there were the late nights of, hey mom, where's the scrapbook paper? But high school was pretty good. It was definitely something I should have taken advantage of more, kind of explore what I wanted to do. I know in high school that there's a lot of push for like figure out what you want to do in your life, like do these career explorations or go to this website and look up these things. And to me, I did not like that because it felt like it was forced upon me rather than an organic exploration of myself and what I wanted to do. But as I said, I didn't take advantage of classes and kind of exploring more of what I wanted to do. I had scheduled a an architectural drafting class before I went to a tech school to study. Um, if I had taken that drafting class rather than realizing, oh, I don't like this, I'll take physics instead, maybe I would have saved myself a year. But I don't regret taking my senior year to study architectural drafting because, it was still a lot of valuable information I learned about not just myself, but my study style and also different things I enjoyed. From there, I learned I really liked design, whether it was with architecture, that was arguable, but just design in and of itself was something I enjoyed. So, yeah, high school for me, it was definitely something I should have done more in and didn't, but it was still a good experience for me.
Awesome. I mean, that's awesome to hear. It seemed like you were very involved in high school from the sounds of it. You said you're a band geek, so you had to be involved in a lot of extracurriculars. Now, when you're making that transition, from your senior year graduate now to a college freshman, for a lot of people, that's kind of difficult. But how would you describe your transition from high school to college?
So since I took a year and a half off, it was a very delayed transition, but I was okay with that. I know there's a lot of pressure, like right out of high school, to go straight into college, and that's kind of the normal path people take. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it wasn't for me. My brother had taken, I think, a year or two off after high school to work as well, so he could figure out what he wanted to do, and he ended up going back to school for music and just graduated. But for me, it was very delayed. I wanted to kind of take my time and figure out really what I wanted to do. So that way, when I went back, I was doing the right thing and could really focus on what I wanted to do.
Okay, that's nice because I mean we've had a lot of guests come on and talk about how for some of them they took a year or two off to kind of figure out what they wanted to do, and I think there's a big stigma around people who take years off because like you were mentioning earlier, a lot of people who take a year off always have that, oh yeah, you're wasting a year of your life and all that stuff because you could be in school getting educated, but for you took that like I want to make some money, I'm going to think about this 'cause I don't want to feel like
Mhm.
it's a forced decision, and that's really important, for everyone at home. It's okay to take a year off if you have some type of idea what you want to do in the meantime, soul
Yeah.
searching, one would say. So you took that year off, then you decided, okay, HU is the spot. You're at HU. So let's talk about your experience at HU. Specifically, what are some of the things that you do at HU right now in terms of like extracurriculars or like internships, etc.?
Yeah, so as of right now, I am currently the media manager for the HU Esports Club. So a lot of the posts you see on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, those are from me and also from the other officers who I work with. It's a volunteer position, but it's still fantastic experience in the club. And I also intern with the varsity squad, the Harrisburg University Storm. And with them, I work as a kind of junior graphic designer. I don't know if that's the right title to give it, more of a student intern with a graphic design experience. And I assist the social media manager with graphic design so that they can put posts up with graphics.
Okay. In terms of if you're using the right title, is yeah, you're using the right title. It's your junior intern because it varies depending on the company you work for, so it happens. But okay, so you seem like you do a lot. You especially with interns for the esports specifically. I think that's really cool that you're doing that type of stuff only for second year. 'Cause I think most people just think that your third year does that, but here at HU, you'll have freshmen working on projects that a senior would be working on. So
Mhm.
as long as it's all about showcasing your work ethic and showcase your work ethic, people will find you. Um, so okay, so you do all these cool little things in terms of internships, all that. So let's kind of also one more question before I hit to Maryland. Talk about now. You said the esports man. You're trying to explain the esports management major, right?
Mhm.
But also in terms of what type of classes are you taking in it, like currently?
Yeah, so right now, as a second year, I still have some general education classes I'm taking. So I still have English 200, advanced comp, and technical writing. I still have a math class, so I have applied mathematics. I'm looking over what I have because I have all my stuff organized here. I also have Stepping Stone, which is the other seminar class. And then I'm also taking an IMED class. I think it technically counts as um, what's the word? I can't think of what it is. Not gen ed.
Elective.
Elective. That's what it is. It technically counts as an elective because it's an IMED class, so it's not an esports class. But it's really nice because it's helping with my graphic design skills. So visual design is really nice. But in terms of esports, last semester I took Intro to Competitive Gaming, which is kind of the intro class to the major. And right now I am taking Contemporary Issues in Esports, which is kind of focusing on the current issues in the industry and how we can kind of be aware of them and work towards eliminating them in the future.
Awesome. And you said you're taking visual graphic design, and right now,
Visual design fundamentals, yeah.
oh, is that with Kevin Cagno?
It's with Paul Holzer.
Oh, hold on. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's gone. But so just in a couple terms, I'm going to explain real quick before I jump into Maryland. Gen Ed, when we say that, we're talking about your general education classes. So your maths, your sciences. Yes, you still have to retake classes you learned in high school. College is all about relearning and also learning new things. So understand you will. And electives, just like in high school, there are classes you can take, but technically in college you have to take them because you need credits to graduate. So it varies depending on your major. So, but that being said, I'll jump into Maryland.
So what was that like for you moving from Denver to Harrisburg?
Yeah, so I actually, when I was in, I think my sophomore year of high school and then also my senior year, I got to travel abroad. So I got to go to the United Kingdom and Ireland and also Germany. So I got to go to a lot of big cities in that, and that kind of helped me transition later on of like, oh, this is just like visiting another city, except I live here now. So applying those skills of like, oh, all right, this is a big city, not my small town where I can just walk to the grocery store. I have to be more aware of my surroundings in the city. um, but I also grew up going to Lancaster City, which is about 25, 30 minutes from me. So the downtown is kind of, to me, a home feeling place, just because I may be from a small town. I don't want to live in a small town all my life. I've come to love being in a city.
I've always wanted to go to Ireland. That's like on my bucket list. So that's really cool though, like that transition and that mindset. I think that's really unique. Are there any spots that you've grown to love in Harrisburg?
Oh, absolutely. I love the school itself, just where it's at. It's a great spot, and then it feels nice in the school. Like, it's hard to explain. It's just the atmosphere. It feels very education focused, but also a great spot where you can just hang out with friends. Um, the library at the school is one of my favorite spots. I hang out there a lot. I do enjoy the student union. I don't go there as much as I should, but I still really like it there. So traveling over to the Whitaker Center from the university is really nice. Strawberry Square, which is connected to the university. I totally missed that not being at the school this year. Just being able to leave class and walk to Taco Bell, that's a plus. Um, Further down in the city in Midtown, I love the Broad Street Market. My friends and I on Saturday mornings, we would get up and walk to the market and pick up some groceries and produce, maybe some ice cream and some stuff we didn't need, but it was always just nice to get off campus a bit. And then also down on the waterfront in City Island, we would take walks out there and just kind of walk around. And that was always just a really nice kind of change of scenery from the buildings.
A lot of people might look at Harrisburg and think, wow, there's not a whole lot here. But what we hear more and more from HU students is there's a lot of hidden gems.
Oh, absolutely. There's a
And
ton of coffee shops.
ton of coffee shops. Got great coffee shops.
Yeah.
What's your go-to? Little Answer Elementary, or maybe another one. But we like to hear from HU students what some of their favorite places are in Harrisburg. Because one of the fun things, at least for me, moving to a new city is finding like your favorite spot. So that's
Oh,
something
I
that,
have another spot I want to add.
yes.
Down on Second Street, there's a whole bunch of restaurants. But my boyfriend and I, our like first official date was at McGrath's Pub. So that has a really special place in my heart. And then also Midtown Scholar across the street from Broad Street Market. He and I went there on our first date, kind of a first date. We weren't really sure if that's what it was. And it's just a really cool bookstore, but also cafe. It's a huge bookstore.
It is a great spot for a date.
It is.
Real quick, y'all making me emotional. Here, man.
I know her boyfriend. I know them as a couple. They're just okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Stephen, do you have any other questions?
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to compose myself a little bit. That was so cute right there. Um, so kind of as we get towards the end of this. So you're currently in your second year. Obviously, you're nowhere near yet to the point where you're about to graduate, but you're eventually going to have to start thinking about that as you go throughout your college adventure. Do you have any idea what you want to do after graduation yet? Or that's kind of like I'll get there when I get there.
I would say it's almost a mix between the two. I have a tendency to kind of think too far ahead and then kind of overwork myself in that manner. Um, but of course, I'm thinking about graduation, what I want to do. As an esports management and production major, I've definitely looked into team management for different esports teams or organizations. as well as potentially events and working in event planning and production. But they're just thoughts right now. I don't have too much experience in them, so I'm kind of working towards finding the best way to gain that experience, whether it's through classes, outside of classes, and other internships. Um, but it's definitely there. I don't want to think too much on it just because it makes me a little anxious, but it's it's definitely some stuff I do need to think about more.
I mean, hey, that's understandable. Look, I'll always go back to that saying: "Don't rush something that's not in your control." Just go with the flow of things. I think currently, like in today's era, a lot of things are outside of our control, so we can't control what we can't touch or feel or whatever. So just let it happen and cross that bridge when we get there. But sometimes you can overthink too. I'm a fan of that too. Do you know how that term where basically you're a freshman, then after a couple months or so, you start kind of having those circles of friends you go to for everything. You know, there's a stigma around that, right? Where basically, you only hang out with those specific type of people for the rest of your time. That's your friends for life, right? Do you believe in that stigma of basically you're only in that circle of friends? I don't know what that word I was looking for that I was trying to say. I think Marilyn, do you know the word I'm trying
Click.
to click? There we go. Cause we always mention this to our guests. The term click. If you have you ever heard of it? And if not, have you just heard of like that saying about how freshmen basically make friends in terms of just having that small circle and then that's it?
Oh, absolutely. So I kind of equate it to high school, how you have different groups in high school. But in college, it's definitely very different. You have different people from different backgrounds. You have a diverse group of people as well. So I think part of it is it's a shared experience in college, and everybody's just kind of looking for that group to share that experience with. And I can see how it could be kind of clicky. As a small university, I definitely think that we make our friends, but as our friends, since it's so small, we see them more than anybody else. But I definitely think that the the click it can happen freshman year, but I also think as you go on, you meet other people. So like I think right now, since we're not on campus, it's very hard to kind of branch out and meet other people. But when you're in person, there's definitely, oh, this person that sits next to you in your class every day. You don't know them at first, but by the end of the semester, you may be good friends. So I think it definitely depends on kind of also the person, whether or not you're somebody who wants to stay set in your group, or if you want to like reach out to other people and say like, hey, we have this class together. Would you maybe want to get together and work on something? Or hey, let's share notes. I think it really kind of depends on you and how you want to go about your college experience and your friend group.
That's awesome. I mean, because we actually set the questions because we can talk about all the amazing things that yourself and many other guests do, but we also want to ask questions that are really like thought provoking in terms of like how you handle your social factors in hand too, because that's also important. Because I know education is the priority for a lot of people, but also some people go to college and they don't want to admit it, but there's a social reason for it. Because a
Oh,
lot of them in
absolutely.
high school they weren't as social as they were. They're like, you know what? College is new me, that new transition. So they want to showcase themselves. So to kind of go on that, in terms of like, because we all with clicks, you always hear all the concept of drama too. Do you? And I don't know if you ever been to your fair share of drama here in college yet, but
Not in college, definitely in high school
hey,
though.
okay, that's understandable. High school drama is its own thing. But if you had to say high school drama versus college drama, would you say they're kind of the same thing or like they're their own manifestations of themselves?
I think freshman year there can be some similar drama. I think because many students come straight out of high school, that transition to certain aspects can kind of breed drama. So I can't say I've had a lot of college drama. And maybe that's because I've either avoided it or because I have taken a year and a half off and kind of steered away from some of the high school stuff.
Mm.
Um, but I can see that freshman year there may have been some, not fully with me, but I saw it with some of my peers around me. But I think as it goes on, it definitely kind of dwindles down, and you just have, in a sense, life drama. People always have something that comes up. Um, And I think kind of college drama, high school drama, it all eventually just turns into life drama.
True, true. Because I mean, in all reality, when you think about it, a lot more people's drama in college is more about their finances or something to do with their family versus, oh yeah, she cheated on me, or oh yeah, went to a party and got wasted or something like that. But the mentality changes depending on the person. So the kind of wrap it up. So if you had to give advice to high schoolers who are about to make that transition right now, what would you tell them?
My advice would be take your time. I get that there's pressure and after high school you want to get right into college, and if that's for you, go for it. But if you're somebody who is still trying to figure it out, take your time. Honestly, in the end, it'll be the greatest thing. Um, for me, it was great kind of forging my own path and figuring out my own way. So if you have the means to do that and take that year and that time, definitely do it. I definitely was in a privileged place where I could take that time. I worked 5 minutes from my house, and I was able to be kind of independent in my thinking and figuring out what I wanted to do. So if you can do that, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. And Marilyn, do you have any questions you want to add? Because I was kind of going on my own thing.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm glad you did because I blinked the time there. I don't know why. It was just kind of like gone. Anyway, back at it. You mentioned earlier how taking those architecture classes in high school helped you figure out sort of your learning style and your well, how about you just get into that a little bit? What does that look like now that you're in college, and what did you figure out about yourself?
So I learned a lot definitely through my senior year and then also my gap time. I am a very visual learner. I am somebody who learns a lot from seeing and kind of watching videos. If there's a tutorial with step by step, I don't always do great with that, or reading directions, I'm not good with. But when it comes to actually like watching a step by step tutorial that somebody does rather than seeing a photo tutorial, that's definitely good for me. Or watching a demo. My senior year, our instructor would do demos on how to draw certain things on the computer for drafting, and that kind of made me realize that, like, oh, I'm definitely somebody who needs to see something done first and then I can go and replicate it. um yeah, I think, was there another part of that? Sorry.
You're good. What does that look like for you in college? And then I'll also add on, now that our semester is online, how have you adapted with that?
Yeah, so also in terms of college and learning style, adapting kind of the visual sense of it, I take a lot of notes. Online it's been a bit harder, but in class I fill up notebooks with either just kind of notes from PowerPoints, notes of what teachers say, um, other just like um, but for me, writing stuff down other than typing on the computer is kind of my main go-to for things. I also have a planner that I use. So I know a lot of people like to use their phones, or we have the great Microsoft Suite, which has a calendar in it. And while that's great for me when it's on my phone or online, I have a tendency to kind of block it out. So on my phone, I'll either swipe it away or ignore it. But if I have it physically written down, I can kind of see what I have to do and visualize all the work I have. And I'm able to cross it off and realize, all right, this is done, this is done. We'll go to the next thing.
Yeah, one of the things that I found helpful my freshman year was also like physically writing it down. Because I came from a background where just I don't write notes, I don't take plans. So time management, that's definitely key when you're transitioning
Oh,
into
absolutely.
college. Yeah.
I also didn't know how to take notes when I got to college. So I took classes at community college before I started at HU, which really helped me kind of get a feel of what the college experience was going to be like. And I had in high school, like, you have your classes where they might be a bit harder. I took notes, I think, in my science classes, and that was about it. Because like math came easy to me in high school. English, I don't really know how to take notes on English. So it was a lot of learning how to kind of adapt to college. I think that's a big thing is adapting. And so at community college, I took, I think, 3 or 4 classes. I got there and I was like, oh gosh, it's been a year since I've been to school. What am I doing? And I kind of had to relearn how to take notes and essentially relearn how to learn.
Damn.
Yeah, those are great words. And important to remember, especially if you maybe didn't take notes in high school or weren't super organized. You might want to get a little organized for college, but it's not scary. It's really
No.
easy to do if you just do a little digging, maybe get yourself a cute planner, or if you're able to take notes on your phone and remember it, definitely go that route.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, do you have anything else for us today?
Yeah, one more thing I want to talk about is with esports, specifically around the COVID. Because so when COVID dropped, esports is all about those big stadiums, the crowd, the fans, the teams playing their hearts out. And now we're at, okay, everyone's on home, everyone's playing on home, everyone's doing that. So in terms of what you do for esports with the management role, how did you go about in terms of your social media presence that you do? How do you guys go about rearranging your plans? I'm assuming there were other plans in place for a lot of the in-person events you're probably hosting this year. I know our school, we host if and forgive me if I correct me if I'm wrong, the Hugh Invitational, where we have college teams from all over the United States come down. They compete in games of Overwatch and League of Legends, and we host it, and it's a really cool event. I think it was over 64 teams do this thing. Um, so how did that kind of change because of COVID? And how do you guys go about projecting that?
Yeah, so esports in general has actually done pretty well with COVID and how it's happened. Because while in-person events and arenas are a major part of esports, it's not kind of the hinging factor for the industry. A lot of what we do can still be done online. So there are still major events going on in new titles like Valorant. There's still the leagues like Overwatch League that happened online. League of Legends, I think they just wrapped up their World Championship.
Yeah.
They did that in person, but they did it in a bubble where the teams came and they had to quarantine for a bit, and then they went in person, but no spectators were allowed. So esports has adapted very well and is able to adapt very well to an online kind of structure. In terms of HU and the Hugh Invitational, a lot of the management stuff was not from me since I'm just a student intern. It came a lot more from I think Chad, the director for the program, as well as I think the social media manager who worked with them as well on that. So for me, from what I saw, it was definitely a challenge to adapt it online, but it was something that was not too hard to change the format of. While I wish we could have had it in the Whitaker Center, the online format still went very well. We had 2 streams, one for Overwatch, one for League of Legends. So all of the different teams that registered online competed. Either their game got streamed or it just worked through the bracket without it being on stream. Um, so it was a lot of virtual planning and figuring out how to run a live stream virtually and remotely, and then also kind of how we wanted to go about it on social media.
Well, we'll just end it here. First and foremost, thank you, Lindsay, for coming on to HU Flow. We greatly appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
For anyone who's still watching this last 5 seconds, we appreciate you too. As always, be sure to check us out on all our social medias at HU Enrichment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video if you're watching this on YouTube. Like the post if you're watching this on Facebook. And as always, I'm your host, Steven. That's Marilyn. And this is Lindsay. This has been a HU Flow video. We'll see you guys next time.